need more bread, more circus, and we need less factories on fire, okay? You get a Molotov cocktail thrown at your house,
You have no right to complain.
pipe. This is going to change the world. They burn things down. Dance, monkey, dance for our entertainment. Let's go. The same people who have spent the last 2 years telling you that AI is going to replace you and it's going to take all of the jobs have all of a sudden this week dialed back their rhetoric, looked into the camera and said, please don't panic. We were just kidding. None of this is random. All of the AI talking heads are dialing back their messages this week. It is all a coordinated messaging attempt, and I'm going to reveal why later in the show. For the last year, the pitch was blunt. Learn AI or you're going to be replaced. And actually, even if you do learn AI, you're still going to be replaced anyway. So it doesn't matter. There's no place for you in the AI future. And the response has been mixed, but it's gotten very bad over the past 2 to 3 weeks. You have people protesting data centers, executives at even the stuffiest and most backwards companies are now looking at their AI bills and saying, I don't know that that's getting us a good return on investment for all the money we're spending on this tool. But the killing blow, the reason they've had to change the narrative was because of the booing at graduation ceremonies whenever AI has been mentioned.
In your generation.
Now, this week, the most rabid, foaming at the mouth pro-AI pundits are totally changing their messaging. Sam Altman is actually saying, well, it's not going to replace all jobs. It's not going to replace as many jobs as I was initially saying. Jeff Bezos is now calling AI a good tool, but it's not going to replace anybody anytime soon. Even Dario Amodei has shrunk away from his crusade to say that AI is going to replace all of the white-collar workers and has begun speaking in riddles like a professor again.
So as a whole, I'm concerned and I'm also hopeful.
It's gotten so bad that Wired revealed this week, thanks to leaked government documents, that the government is actually trying to track anti-tech extremists. That's a term that they're actually using. Your government, your intelligence community is calling people who protest AI, who push back against AI, who even ask if it's necessary, anti-tech extremists. And it's not just rah-rah rhetoric. The Justice Department is asking for information from Reddit and X on anonymous users who are opposing AI. So they are collecting names. The question isn't whether or not AI is powerful. You know, if you've been watching this channel for a while, that I believe it is. I believe there's no denying that AI is a powerful tool. The question is, why did the narrative change right when the public started getting angry about these things? There have now been at least 3 graduate commencement ceremonies this year. Young adults graduating college, ready to enter the workforce, many for the first time in their lives, faced by this extremely harmful rhetoric and direction that the country has taken on AI, that it will replace you, there's no need for you, there's no place for you in this future. And for some reason, a lot of invited commencement speakers have thought, you know what would be a good idea? This tool that we keep saying that we're going to replace them, let's talk about how good that is. And that's exactly what happened. There have been at least 3 commencement ceremonies where a commencement speaker, invited commencement speakers, talked about AI in a positive light, and the kids have booed. They booed. The best of this, we covered it on this channel, happened right down the road in Tempe, Arizona. It was at the University of Arizona. Eric Schmidt, former Google CEO, booed multiple times every time he mentioned AI during his commencement speech. And who exactly is doing the booing? It would be an error to write them off. They're not strange Luddites living in some agrarian community out in the middle of nowhere. This is the next generation of knowledge workers that are entering the workforce. These are young adults with college degrees that are college educated, that are entering the workforce, and they are booing AI because the rhetoric that they have heard over the past 4 years is your degree is worthless, you're in student debt, but it doesn't matter because AI is just going to do everything for us. And none of this was accidental. The panic was the sales pitch. To give you just a couple hits here, you have Dario Amodei warning that, quote, 50% of all tech jobs, entry-level lawyers, consultants, and finance professionals could be wiped out in the next 1 to 5 years. Nothing ambiguous about that. Andy Jassy in 2025, of course, the CEO of Amazon Web Services, the biggest hosting and web infrastructure provider in the world, said that AI could mean fewer people in some corporate jobs. The most brutally worded one I've seen came from Standard Chartered Bank when they were going to cut more than 7,000 jobs to boost AI spending to replace, quote, their words, not mine, lower value human capital. Then, of course, you have the Intuit layoffs, the Meta layoffs, every other layoff where a CEO says, we need to cut people because we need more money for AI tokens. The story has always been replacement from the get-go. I think it's a fetish for some of these people that they want to replace humans with the machines. And what you absolutely can't do, I guess they're computer scientists. Maybe they're just not very good with people or understanding social dynamics. You cannot tell people for years, adapt or perish, and then expect there to be no pushback. I have no sympathy for the leader of these large tech conglomerates and AI labs. They deserve exactly what's coming to them. And the thing I keep trying to drive home on this channel, it's not just tech workers. It's not just students graduating college right now. This affects all of us. I don't care if you're a bricklayer. This is going to affect you. And we have the numbers to back that up. They have to put these data centers somewhere. I mean, even like I said, even if you're a bricklayer, you still got to have a house somewhere. And they could put a data center there. And even if you can't see it from your house, even if it doesn't cause a bunch of horrible light pollution like data centers do, it's going to make your electricity bill go up by double, maybe quadruple in some cases. And you're a bricklayer. You make ends meet. It's a good, honest living. You did nothing to deserve that. You're not involved in the AI space. You've never even used ChatGPT. But can you afford to double or quadruple your energy bill? Most people could get behind that. A Gallup poll says that 70% of Americans oppose a data center being built in their area. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants the necessary infrastructure for this. And our politicians have no idea how to solve it. Probably most of them are invested, so they stand to financially gain from the construction of data centers. The ones that aren't, like Elizabeth Warren, are offering some good solutions that if we're going to create AI data centers, there need to be extra taxes paid by these companies. They need to actually make the community that they're built in more prosperous. Maybe not a perfect solve, but it's better than a lot of the ideas I've heard. But ideas like that are getting no traction because so many people in Congress are bought and paid for by the AI initiative or the data center initiative or the construction companies that are backing the construction of these data center builds. Everybody is getting paid off of this except for you and I. And it's crazy. It just goes to show you, the people running these companies are engineers for the most part. They're software people. They think in terms of system design and objective truths about systems. And it's very interesting because all of the positioning they've been using for years now is, I don't know, the model capability. Is the model going to be good enough? Is the model going to be able to do X, Y, and Z? And ultimately, it doesn't really matter because the blocker was permission from the people. Like, hello, is there somebody you forgot to ask? And that's why I always say on this channel, AI is not something being done for us. It's being done to us. So I'm going to give you my read of the situation. And this is why you should sign up for the newsletter. The link is in the description, newsletter.drjoshcsimmons.com. I promise, not a totally shameless plug. They're going to have a very hard time censoring what I have to say in a newsletter. They have an easy time censoring me here on YouTube. They're going to suppress the hell out of this video, especially after I say some of the things I'm about to say. But here's my read of the situation. All of this is pretty organic. It's pretty organic up until about February or March. And I reported on it in this channel. In March, you have that guy that burned down the toilet paper warehouse. And what they really tried to suppress in the media, this is the first time I saw that, is that there were like 5 or 10 copycat factory burning incidents that happened right after that. I refuse to believe that all of those were just happenstance. They just happened to catch fire that week because it was all across the country. And some of those were proven arson cases. Okay. And did you hear about it? Probably not, unless you were really looking out for it. You really had to dig for these stories. But when I did searching, all around the country, different news outlets, I found so many of these copycat fires after the toilet paper fire. And so if you're the US government, not even the US government, if you're the Epstein class, maybe that just is the US government at this point, who knows? But if you are the Epstein class, you're thinking, okay, I'm ownership class, right? I own toilet paper warehouses. I live in the nice area of San Francisco, the area where you cannot afford to live. I don't want to live near the warehouses. I live in a nice zip code. You live near the warehouses. My workers live near the warehouses. One of them piped up. They burnt down this warehouse. Okay, that sucks. We got insurance, whatever. Then the copycat fires start happening. Then other people in the Epstein class are like, hey, they're at the Epstein Island meetup, and they're like, did your warehouse? But yeah, I had a warehouse fire too. And they all realize, hey, we're having a lot of warehouse fires lately. And it turns out the American people, if they're pushed too far, we don't pay them enough, they're going to set stuff on fire. And that's our investment money. Insurance is only going to work to a certain point. And of course, these people aren't dummies. They can abstract and they can think, what else are we building that's expensive? Oh, data centers. We're building those data centers and they're super, super expensive. And what if somebody burned one of those down? That would be domestic terrorism, right? It wouldn't be because we did something so shitty to the people that they retaliated. That would be domestic terrorism, right? That we're going to classify them as not even Americans. They're domestic terrorists. And they're worried. And the mechanics of this are all effed up. But if you put yourself in their position, let's say you take all of your life savings and you buy a supercar. Okay. Buy the nicest car you can afford with all of your life savings. Maybe you're not doing so well on life savings. I know I'm not. So maybe you can buy like a low model Corvette or something, but you put all your money into it, right? And you don't have any money for insurance. So you drive this car and you don't have insurance on it. And you have to park it in kind of like a not so nice industrial area of town, and you have to leave it. You're not going to feel good about leaving it, right? You're going to be concerned. Is somebody going to vandalize my car, my investment? I don't have insurance on it. It's very expensive. All my money is tied up in that thing. And that's exactly how the Epstein class is feeling right now. They're feeling naked. They're feeling vulnerable because they've seen that the American people, when they're pushed too far, they burn things down. Americans are still with the spirit of 1776, and they can only be pushed so far before they push back. And that's exactly what happened at the toilet paper warehouse. That's what happened in a lot of the copycat fires. And they're thinking, it hasn't happened yet, but it's only a matter of time before somebody gets uppity and burns down a data center, and then people get ideas about it. And for what it's worth, I don't think that you should do that. I absolutely do not think you should, for example, mix sand and used motor oil. I do not think that you should do that. I do not think that you should burn down a data center. It's not really productive. But I say all this so you know that this is what the elites are thinking and feeling. And when you corner somebody like that with resources, government resources, they retaliate. I'm going to get to the system that they are actually deploying and rolling out to get ahead of this issue in a minute. But I want to talk about some of the financial initiatives. It's important we still stay close to the facts. I'd like to be clear about what is my speculation, what's my inference, and what are the facts. And the facts is that there was a lot of money on the line as well. There wasn't only the safety of these data centers and the investment in the data centers. There's company valuations riding on this, right? The most valuable companies in the history of the world, if you're to believe the paper money valuations. And those are OpenAI and Anthropic. And so OpenAI announced on March 31st that it closed a $122 billion funding round at an $852 billion post-money valuation for a company that has no profit model or way of making money. But the reason that Dario Amodei had to do the press tour. You'll notice you may have not seen this guy very often since the India AI Summit, but the reason he's popping up all over the news, or has been for the past few weeks, is because, hey, we're asking for money. We need some more of that sweet venture capital. So, of course, they're going to trot out their lead man and they say, dance, monkey, dance for our entertainment. And they're trying to get money. They're trying to drum up hype around this. And so Dario has been doing this media circus tour where he keeps saying it's going to replace white collar workers. AI is going to replace white collar workers. It's going to replace all of them. It's going to be 60, 70, 80, 90%, maybe even 100%, except for me and my Epstein friends. It's going to replace you, though. And so we have confirmation of that raise now, because as of May 28th, they raised $65 billion in Series H funding at a $965 billion post-money valuation for a company that does not have a clear way to make profit. It is monopoly money. And when you are building an illusion like that, you need to drum up hype and discord in any way possible to pump that imaginary number up higher. It's not like when they go in and do this valuation, a 409A valuation. It's not like when they go to Anthropic, it's not like they can go in and they can say, well, you got this much inventory and this much inventory, this many boxes of beans that you have. It's valued at this much money. So we value the company about this much money based on the overhead you're charging on reselling those beans. They have no beans. Anthropic's got no beans. They got nothing. It's ephemeral. It's an algorithm. It's in the computer. They have no clear profit motive. So all they have is hype. They need to keep building up hype. This is going to change the world. It's going to put massive swaths of people out of business. And that is at least the immediate financial motive. Why? Remember, this was a May 28th raise. After May 28th, there has been a significant change in the messaging around AI. Significant change. That is because they needed to get the hype high. They needed to get the valuation, but now the ink is dry on that contract. And if I had to put my inference hat on, undoubtedly, they have contacts in the intelligence community at this point. How could they not? They are processing massive amounts of private data on American citizens. Their models are being used by the Department of War, maybe not Anthropic's, but they actually are. So, of course, they're tied to the intelligence community. And someone from the intelligence community said, fine, do your raise, because the U.S. economy, it pretty much depends on your fake money valuation at this point. Do the raise, keep the hype going. But the minute that ink is dry on the contract, you better dial that back. We got to have more sane rhetoric around this to quell the masses. We need more bread, more circus, and we need less factories on fire, okay? So dial it back. And that's exactly what they're doing. And now there's a watch list. They're calling us, this is leaked Department of Justice documents, leaked that Wired obtained. 1,000 pages worth of leaked documents. Turns out there is now a taxonomy for us. Okay, the intelligence community is calling us anti-tech extremists. Anti-tech extremists. You don't have to be somebody that burns down a data center. You don't have to be somebody that mixes sand at the surveillance cameras or flock cameras to be on this anti-tech watch list. About 50-50 parts of each. You shouldn't do it, though. But there's a watch list, and it's not just a theoretical category. The Department of Justice has gone to X and Reddit and formally requested information about anonymous users on those platforms so they can add people to their watch list. Are you seeing how they are changing the playing field right under us? Instead of me being somebody who is skeptical of AI, but uses it, and likes it for the most part. Skeptical of the business side, skeptical of the energy use, skeptical of many things. I'm no longer a skeptic. I am an anti-tech extremist in their eyes. We are on a journey, you and I, on this channel as I ask more questions, as I do more investigations. And what this has led me to is this. AI is useful. It's useful for a lot of things. But useful technology does not require a social contract written as a ransom note, i.e. do this or be out of a job forever. If the tech is so good, people will naturally use it. Nobody had to go on TV and tell me how great penicillin is for me to take it when I have a sinus infection, because the technology works. AI should be the same way. The executives, the Epstein class needs to stop ramming it down people's throats. They need to develop a good product, let the public choose if they want to use it. And as Elizabeth Warren is saying, we need to find a way, if we're going to continue to build AI data centers, we need to find a way to do it with minimal environmental impact. And when we do build them next to where people live, we need to find a way to let those people monetarily benefit from it. They need kickbacks and they deserve consent. What those Epstein class leaders don't get to do is sell replacement and sow discord among the American people, and then all of a sudden claim to be targeted or the bad guy or boo-hoo, my house got a Molotov cocktail thrown at it. I don't advocate violence, but if you are advocating replacement and you get a Molotov cocktail thrown at your house, you have no right to complain. And that will be the true test of AI adoption, is will they turn this into a fascist rollout plan where people like you and I have no power and no decision-making in the process? And if so, how will the American people push back? But I have to hop off now because it looks like the sun is setting and I see mostly peaceful but also fiery protests going on in the distance.